When I joined, I was 22 years old, from Houston, Texas. Didn't really have a path. I had worked a few different odds and ends jobs.
Right.
Kind of didn't really pan out. Didn't really take me anywhere meaningful. I knew I was still young enough to make a decision that could significantly alter my life or give me a path, if you will. And so I chose to join. Ended up serving for 4 years, re-enlisting for 2. And then when I got out, I just decided to stay in San Diego, make this place my home.
Right.
The rest is history, man.
Alrighty, we are recording. Welcome everyone to the San Diego Patriots podcast. This is episode 35, and sitting here with today's guest, Mr. Will. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Lee? I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Excited that we could finally bring this to fruition and make it happen. And I'm looking forward to joining the club, San Diego Patriots Club.
Hell yeah, brother. No, we're all Patriots here. And you and I have known each other for almost a year now, huh?
Yeah, it's gone by quickly. Just a few of those meetings, and then here we are now, right?
Yeah. Well, we met at the Mad Men, which I've featured on the San Diego Patriots podcast. A big community, men's only community here in San Diego. But always good conversations and positive theme, positive community. And I think you and I always talk about the fact that it's such a diverse crew and you never know what you're getting into, but it's all positive stuff, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, as diverse as the group is and as many different type of characters you have in there, everyone kind of is naturally drawn to just certain people.
Right.
And you're definitely one of the individuals whom I've engaged with more time while being there, whatever.
Right.
So everyone can kind of sort through the crowd and see who click better with and who you vibe better with. And yeah, you've always been a stand-up guy, very well-spoken, very well-presented, and I like that about you, Lee, and I'm happy to take an opportunity to make something meaningful with you.
No, I appreciate it, man. And I know that's what you and I share that in common where, hey, we've had our own experiences in life and, had our fair share of ups and downs, and we're all about discussing the lessons learned and trying to share that with the next generation so they can be, better, stronger men. And that's one of the things I love about the Madman group. Yeah,
I like that was one of your main things with this podcast is I've always been about passing on game to the younger generations, even when it's unsolicited.
Right.
Ironically enough, when I go on board Navy ships and I work with some of the sailors and we're talking about their gear and stuff, I always let them know hey, there's a lot of possibilities past this realm. So when you are ready to join back into the civilian world, don't think that there aren't any possibilities, any opportunities out there for you.
Right.
And the reason I say that is for those of us who have served, that there's an inclination by the higher ranking members that there's nothing going on out there. You're better off here, staying in uniform, staying active duty or whatever. Of course, they'd like you to think that, especially if you're someone who's squared away, someone who does your job,
right?
Because they want to retain those type of people. But I've always been the one hey, I only served 6 years. I got out. I have this job. I've done this. I've traveled here. So here's my number. Here's my email. Feel free to use me as a resource.
Yeah.
And just kind of empower them, let them know that they have options and they're not forced to just stay in the lane that they're in.
Right.
I know I was skeptical of separating back when I was in because I didn't know what my options were, what that path kind of looked like. Whereas if you stay in the system and you just keep your nose clean and you stay out of trouble, it's pretty easy to have a good career, I'll say,
Yeah, totally.
Not easy in the sense of your lifestyle, easy as in you can stay on the right path relatively simply if you choose to do so.
Yeah.
Obviously, you make sacrifices. You're away from family, your spouse, your kids, whatever but you know what I mean. It's easier to fly straight than, say, navigating, starting back from square one in the civilian world, trying to forge a career path there.
Yeah, and I know you and I talked about that a lot. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of the military and definitely want to jump into your background in a bit. But first and foremost, appreciate you serving, man. I'm a fucking patriot to my core, since I was born. So I love people who, make that sacrifice, join, and whether you do it for personal reasons or you do it for serving your country or whatever your motives are, I think it helps set you up in life, and I think helps you become more of a complete man, in my opinion.
Man, I couldn't agree more. When I joined, I was 22 years old, from Houston, Texas. Didn't really have a path. I had worked a few different odds and ends jobs.
Right.
Kind of didn't really pan out. Didn't really take me anywhere meaningful. I knew I was still young enough to make a decision that could significantly alter my life or give me a path, if you will. And so I chose to join. Ended up serving for 4 years, re-enlisting for 2. And then when I got out, I just decided to stay in San Diego, make this place my home.
Right.
The rest is history, man. That was, I think I've been out 8 years or so now. So longer out, than when I was in.
Right. And so you were born in Houston and then born and raised there the whole time until 18? And
No,
then...
until 22.
Gotcha.
So at 22 is when I joined, but after high school, I just worked, like I said, a couple of different jobs. I think I worked in aviation in Dallas for a while with one of my uncles. He was able to get me in there. And then I worked at a car dealership with family friends. I made some good money, you know, for a young kid with no wife, no kids or whatever. But ultimately, I kind of saw that it wasn't taking me anywhere great. You know, I wanted to travel. I was curious about the world, what was out there and stuff. So joined the Navy. And I guess the reason I wanted to bring that up to kind of close off that loop is a lot of the guys that I've served with or that I've known from the service, they are a little bit bitter about their service, or they'll kind of talk bad about it or say, fuck it, I hated it. But ultimately, my takeaway is, well, where was I before?
Right.
Where am I after? You know, would I have been successful not joining? Maybe, maybe not. But this gave me a clearer path, and more resources in which to achieve that path.
Right.
So even though I just served the 6 years, I got out with my benefits, my GI Bill benefits, which I used to obtain a finance degree from SDSU, and then your VA home loan, which, I mean, those are two, tools that no one will just give you readily. Right. Obviously, as you know, getting a home loan isn't easy. Getting your school paid for isn't easy. I mean, I know people with bachelor's, masters, they have 70, 80K worth of student loans debt, whereas if you join just for 4 years and you get out, you want to pursue your education, that GI Bill will cover it. Right. You know, so a lot of definitely always encourage the youth to give it a consideration. If nothing else, I've been telling my nephews for the last couple of years, hey, give it a chance, give it a chance. Yeah. My older one's 21. He's still at home kind of figuring it out or whatever. No judgment. I left when I was 18. I never went back, never burdened my mom past that point, which I'm thankful for. Yeah. I understand that's not everyone's path, but definitely always want the youth to know that it is something to consider, something worth considering, especially if you join when you're 18 or 19. I mean, you and I know in our older age that 4 years goes by like this. Yeah. And the tools that you can take from just a 4-year term is awesome, because even if you don't have direction still, you have the luxury of, you can go to school, get your school paid for, get a little stipend to live off of, work a part-time, and I mean, clear 4 or 5K a month, going to school, kind of taking it easy, kind of figuring out, which is nice. Which is nice, you know? Well,
and the goal, you know, especially as a man, is to get your shit together, right? And usually what that means is you have to develop a skill people are willing to pay for. That way you can get, bring in money, actually support yourself, and then maybe support a family someday. Right. And whether you go to, my whole thing is, you got to sacrifice 4 years of your time, either to go to school or learn a trade, go be a plumber, go learn construction, real estate, whatever the hell it may be, or join the military. And then when you're 18 to 22, you're basically, it's giving you that time to figure it out. I mean, I think statistically speaking, most young men between ages 18 to 22 is like when you screw your life up, making stupid decisions, getting into drugs. But if you can join the military and you get that type of, structure, right, and having like older responsible guys kind of keep you in check and like tell you, not to be a knucklehead, gives you some time to get that out of your system while you, then maybe go to school or go learn a trade after. But
for sure, another thing that one of my biggest takeaways is, so when I was 22 when I joined, so I had been out of the house, as I mentioned, for a while. I had my responsibilities. I had to wash my clothes, had to clean my place, had to, do all these little tasks in life that are routine for older adults, but when you're young, you still don't know how to take on all those responsibilities and stuff. But what I found was there's a lot of guys who, they didn't know how to wash their clothes. They didn't know how to pay bills. They didn't know how to manage their accounts. So just little things like that you learn early on at whatever point you do in life, and you take it with you. But they set you up for success down the line. So a lot of these younger kids didn't know how to do those basic tasks. It just showed me how sheltered they were. Right. But when you get out there, you're on your own 2 feet. You have to stand as a man, and you have to figure out how to navigate this unknown territory, these adult responsibilities. And it kind of just, you prove to yourself what you're capable of, because whether you like it or not, you're away from your family. You have to live on your own. Right. You have to take care of yourself. You have to exercise. And it's like, it shows you what you're capable of and how to manage your time. And you just take away a lot of discipline that a lot of young men don't have, but that will serve you exponentially, whether you pursue a trade afterwards, whether you go to college, whatever it is that you want to do. That you have the resources and the willpower to get there if you set forth on that path and work towards your goals a little bit each day,
Right. Being organized, learning how to communicate better, learning how to take care of yourself,
learning how to work and engage with people of different backgrounds, different religions, different upbringings, different social circumstances, and I think, a lot of times growing up in our little niches, little bubbles or whatever, you're like, oh, I wouldn't be friends with that type of person, or oh, I don't like this type of people. But you learn to look past that for the greater good, for the common goal.
Yeah.
And you end up calling some people family that you would have never thought, that you would fuck with that person like that. But
right.
you forge
relationships that last forever in many cases.
You forge an undeniable bond in relationship, because at the end of the day, I can say when you're stationed on a ship, you spend more time with the fellow sailors on board that ship than you do your family, than you have your best friends, because you live together, you shower together, not literally shower together,
yeah.
but you sleep together and you work together. So these people they are
your family.
I remember there are people there was people that I didn't like, but I had love for.
Right.
Because you get to know them as a person and you kind of just take them for who they are, even if they're not your cup of tea, just because this is your team, these are your brothers, and it's like, so it definitely shows you so much, like I said, not only what you're capable of, but what you bring to the table, how you can interact with others, what you can offer other people, and what you can learn from others as well.
Right. So I want to jump into your military experience in a bit. But first, so you grew up in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you come from a big family? Like, were they military? Or, what was like your upbringing like?
No prior military in my immediate family. However, two of my uncles on my mom's side. My mom has she had 7 brothers and sisters, 2 sisters and 5 brothers.
Colombian, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
repping the Colombian soccer.
Yeah. So I wanted to wear my sweatshirt today. I didn't know if it'd be cool enough in here, but I'm glad the temperature's fine. So 2 of my uncles had served in the Navy, and one of them was an OS. The other one was an aviation mechanic. Those are rates. I ended up being an OS. OS stands for Operations Specialist. So I had that example from them. I didn't think it was what I wanted to do. However, as I mentioned, after a couple of years went by that I had got out of high school, kind of tried this, tried that, I was like, well, I'm not fulfilled. I'd like to travel. At that point, obviously, wasn't married, didn't have any kids. So I was still free to kind of do something for me with no strings attached.
Right.
So I joined in December of 2009. Went to boot camp. I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, which is like outside of Chicago, right? Went to boot camp in December, so I think one of the coldest nights, it was like -18 or something like that, something
compared
crazy.
To Houston.
compared to never having, compared to like low 30s and maybe Houston or whatever. Right. I got stationed in San Diego on board a frigate in May of 2010. And then ended up serving 3.5 years on there until we decommissioned that ship, because that class ship they were phasing out of the Navy at that time.
How long was the boot camp? Because obviously you're a 21-year-old, leaving hometown, kind of out on your own.
Yep.
Shave your damn head.
Yep.
Right?
So boot camp was about I think 8 weeks, right? And then graduation, and then my basic training school, my A school or whatever, was about 3 months. So by the time that was all said and done, from end of December to joining boot camp to then A school to then to then being stationed in San Diego was a total time of just over 5 months, I think, had elapsed. I got stationed in San Diego, served on board the frigate, decommissioned it, 2 more destroyers after that, and then ended up staying in San Diego, man. I just told myself if I can get a job that'll support my life out here, I would like to give it a try.
Did you have to get shipped off? Because I know some of my other buddies in the Navy, they were like out on a ship for 8 months, 9 months, then come back,
Yeah. So when I say stationed, I don't mean permanently. Now, there's two types of duties in the Navy. There's either shore duty, which is your land-based, right? You don't deploy, or your ship-based, so sea duty, right? So I was, the whole time I was in San Diego over those 6 years, I was attached to a ship, which means I was on sea duty. So
gotcha.
I only made 2 deployments on my first ship. Those were Southern Pacific deployments. So we actually went off the coast of like Panama and Colombia, and we were doing drug ops, right? Like trying to catch drug smugglers.
Gotcha.
So the second ship that I was on, I should have made a deployment with them. However, the ship had a lot of like mechanical issues that they couldn't quite resolve, and they didn't trust sending her out to sea for 6 or 7 months unaccompanied. So didn't make any deployments on there. And then the last ship that I was on, I was just there for a year riding my time out before I got out. And I just happened to barely miss their home port swap to Japan, which means the ship was going to no longer be stationed in San Diego. They were going to sail to Japan and then be stationed in Japan.
Gotcha.
So
and you were almost on that.
Yeah, so barely missed that. I was glad. Japan, it's funny. I didn't go to Japan ever while I was active duty. But since I got out, I've worked with the contractor with the DoD since. I've done some travel on that behalf to that effort, and I went to Japan. I've been to Japan several times, right?
Nice.
And little young shithead naive me thinking I knew it. I was like, oh, I'm good on Japan. I don't need to go. I don't want to be, that far away from everyone. But man, Japan is, for someone who's traveled quite a bit, both internationally and domestically, Japan's an amazing place, bro.
Right.
Amazing
They're an
place.
efficient society. I've always loved the Japanese culture and people.
I could not believe, you walk around Tokyo and it's kind of like organized chaos. Not like New York City, it's chaos. Like,
Yeah.
But, people, as packed as it is, you didn't see any homeless. You didn't see streets littered with trash. You didn't see people, trying to one up each other and trying to, everyone is respectful, is
Right.
mindful of their space and respect street signs and no one's on the phone on the train.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
the quiet trains, right?
yeah, and it's just like the self-awareness and the common respect that they have for fellow citizens is just unparalleled, man. I think
Right.
we could never, and we always hold our nose up high like we're great, and we are as Americans in
Right.
a lot of ways, but definitely their Japanese culture is just very it's easy to respect and easy to admire just because of how they carry themselves. And I'm not talking about just in the train, everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. I'm not, I've gone 3 or 4 times for 2 weeks at a time, and I've never been, no one's ever been rude to me or
Right.
anything of that nature. And
To cultural respect and even, like I've seen when they go to big sporting events, right? You go to a big NFL football game here, there's freaking trash all over the stadium. But then in Japan, I think they all pick up after themselves or even pick up after those around them
Yeah.
and then clean it up. And, same thing when they had that massive tsunami in, I think, what was it, 2011, 2012? It was like big earthquake, gnarly tsunami, destroyed half the freaking country. But then these guys were just all committed to cleaning up their community and all came together. It's something that's admirable. I mean, it
love
really is.
Totally safe, totally clean. Lots to see and explore. Just kind of what I felt like was a more simple, slower pace.
Right.
Which I appreciate. A lot of things that we could take examples from and kind of maybe implement in our own life.
Right.
And I think traveling, that's one of the beauties about traveling, seeing different cultures, different people, different societies. You can kind of see what you like and what you take to from other people, and maybe just live some of it out in your own actions, in your own day to day.
It's experience.
For sure.
Yeah, so you almost missed you just missed the mark to go to Japan. So, but you were stationed in San Diego pretty much the whole time, left to go, Panama, Colombia,
Yep.
out on deployment, and then came back. And then how long were you in before you decided to retire, and like what went through your head, throughout those times? Like, was there conflict you ran into, beefing with, some of your peers, fun moments, scary moments, anything like that?
I noticed, so the time that I was in for 4 years and I re-enlisted for 2 past that point, right? And I was only on a ship because there's called seashore rotation, which determines the time that you're at a sea command before you shift to a shore command, and vice versa. That is contingent upon what your job is. In my case, Operations Specialist OS, that's a seagoing rate. We do the majority of our work underway out to sea.
Right.
Because what we do is we track ships and aircraft in the immediate vicinity. We establish comms with them, rendezvous. Obviously, you can't do a lot of that when the ship's moored pierside, right?
Right.
So in my case, it was 5.5, 3.5. So by the time my 5.5 obligation was up, I was already getting out within 6 or 7 months. So I rode the last bit of time out there on my last ship before they did the home port swap. And then, so what I saw was a lot of the guys that had been in 15, 18, 20 years. They had a great career, a lot to stand on and show for in their career. But I noticed like some of the guys were like divorced, or, on their second or third wife, or maybe
Gotcha.
Not necessarily super happy, a little salty about like having given maybe that much of their time.
It's a little less freedom. I mean, to be frank, right? Because you are, hey, if they tell you a year later you got to move to a new city, then you got to move to a new city.
And I just saw like the commitment that it takes long term with regard to the sacrifice you make being away from your spouse, the sacrifice you make being away from your kids, and a lot of those senior guys, it's like you could kind of tell their priority list was the military first, right?
Yeah.
And then everything kind of trickled. And as much as I respect that, and I because it's not easy, but you do provide for your family,
Totally.
Even if you are physically away sometimes and you're putting a lot of the burden on your spouse. I just thought, hey, I'd like to be married. I'd like to have kids. And I don't want to necessarily put that all on my spouse. When I'm gone on deployment for 6 or 7 months, she's stuck at home with a 2 and 3 year old or whatever, trying to work, trying to be a mom, trying to be a spouse. I just felt like that's an uneven payload, unevenly distributed payload.
Totally fair.
And so I just thought, okay, if I want that for myself, let me just not complicate that situation now, and go ahead and get out and try to forge a path outside of the military. And I knew at that point, as we discussed earlier, the resources that I had at my disposal in which to do so. So I got out. I separated August of 2017. I enrolled in school for following January just to kind of get that going. I think I did Lyft and Uber for a couple months just to
get some cash,
get a little extra money coming in, kind of keep me above ground. And
they pay you to go to school as well. I mean, right?
Yeah,
like while you're signed up full time, your school's covered, books are covered, and then they give you a little bit of a stipend each month, I believe.
Correct. So depending on where you choose to go to school at, and that can be any school, college, trade school, technical school.
Right.
Depending on where you're at, they'll give you a basic allowance for housing, which is contingent upon the area that you live in. It's almost like $4,000 for San Diego, and then they pay your tuition as well.
Right.
So definitely a huge resource. I always tell the guys that are getting out, hey, if you just go to school, get that money, work your little part-time job, that's going to be more than you'll need to get by. And you can focus on getting that education and not have the way to
get grades.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier than having to bust your ass full time and then some just to pay for it, and then still have to worry about how you're going to study and keep your grades up. So it kind of alleviates some of the weight, and then you can kind of channel your energy into doing well at whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Right. And then what did you get your degree in, and how did you choose that? Were you thinking about what job you wanted in the future, or how did
So funny that you ask. So in my case, at that point I was already. By the time I got to where I needed to choose a path, I was already 2 years into Grossmont College, and a computer sciences or like computer sciences, or like electrical engineering maybe would have been more relevant to like my career field. But I'll be honest, it wasn't totally what I was interested in, me personally. But I didn't want to waste those resources, my GI Bill.
Right. You want to get a degree.
Correct. And I wanted to tap into that money too, right? Because like I said, so I ended up going the finance route. So I got a degree in finance at SDSU. And I just wanted it to be something that I was interested in, something that I was going to be happy learning about.
Right.
Because as you and I both know, financial skills and responsibility is not something that we're taught in middle school and high school. Yeah. And it's something that we all need.
Totally.
Especially when you live somewhere that's as expensive as Southern California. So
one of the biggest gaps in the K through 12 process, in my opinion, in this country.
For sure. It's a huge disconnect, and you wonder why a lot of people get in bad places. But I think, a secret that society won't tell you is they want to keep you in debt, bro. They want to keep you in debt. They want to keep you, making sure you're paying these companies every month, credit card companies.
Multi-decade old system.
Yep. And it's like, it's funny. By the time you're wise enough to realize, you've already been living your life that way for 20 years. You know what I mean?
And a lot of it comes down to personal habits, obviously.
True.
It's like, hey, we all love to eat out all the time. And then you kind of learn after a while, shit, this is taking a lot of my paycheck. Like, I should probably be a little bit more conscious about that.
For sure. So back to where...
choosing your
so it wasn't necessarily relevant to what I was doing. Luckily, I already had a couple years in. So I was like, let me just get this degree that I'm interested in, kind of try to use it as leverage with my company to get a little bit more money. And luckily, even though it wasn't relevant, my company is very supportive about furthering your education, whatever capacity it is. So they did give me more money. So I was able to use it as leverage. Now, I have heard of other people getting a degree that's not relevant and they're not able to.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that's going to apply everywhere. I was fortunate enough that it did. I challenged myself. I used that resource. I got my bachelor's in finance. And one thing I did see is had I wanted to start over in that industry, I would have started off, here, and I'm already kind of here as far as pay goes. So,
right.
But the good thing is once you're in a certain industry, if you're thriving, if you're learning, if you're pushing yourself and you're adding things to your resume, that's going to speak for itself. A lot of these times for these positions, it's either they want you to, a degree or 6 years experience,
Right.
So you can kind of, circumvent the having to have the degree if you have work experience in that industry, in which case I do, and I have. And yeah, I've been on that path since, man. At this point, I've been working as a contractor for the Navy longer than I served.
Right.
So, and again, I owe that thanks to my decision to join and to serve, because it gave me a path and a clear direction to take afterwards, and I'm grateful for. So something I wanted to say earlier, which I didn't get to, is a lot of the guys put emphasis on the negative or what it took away from me, how it made me bitter, how it made me jaded, but they don't own, or they don't say everything that it did do for you.
Right.
What it did provide for you, what career you may have now because of it, what it opened your eyes up to because of it, and it's like I always, right before I complain or illustrate the negative factors and points, I want to also give it the good, So anytime I always kind of hear guys bad mouthing the service for their time, and I kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, but what did it do for you, really, though?
For sure, yeah. Well, I think too, it's like it's a normal human thing. It's like even when you're growing up, you're like, maybe bitch and complain about your mom and your parents. It's like, oh man, my parents are being hard on me and X, Y, Z. But then you get older and it's like, oh man, they did a lot for me.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? It's like I can't complain anymore. And same thing with the military. I got buddies who served and they're a little bit jaded too, and they're like, oh, it's lame, blah blah. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, but you got 0% down on your home, and you got, they paid for your school. You were definitely a knucklehead, before you were 22.
For sure.
So it's like I think it's more of a net positive, and it's a good option for people. Like I said, if you're not going to go to school or you're not going to build a trade, like join the military. It gives you some time to think about it, and then go to school and then go to a trade afterwards.
Correct. I think a big misconception when young guys join the service is they have a certain way that they think it's going to be, maybe, from seeing movies or from hearing about it or whatever. The thing about the service is you get to choose what you do as far as your job, but you don't get to choose explicitly where you go, how you serve, what things you do on a day-to-day. All that is they choose that direction for you.
Right.
So
right.
That's kind of a misconception, but just the gesture in serving your country and the sacrifice that you make that comes with doing so. It's a beautiful thing. It shows you to be selfless, and you grow, you learn, you take discipline, and you show yourself what you're capable of. And yeah, I think it emboldens and empowers you to take on things after when that chapter is over, So,
right.
And again, 4 or 5 years, you and I know is nothing. It goes by like that. For these guys that are questioning, what their future looks like and are young and they want to try something, I always tell them definitely look into it, because 4 or 5 years goes by like this, and then you're on to the next. And then, hey, you could either stay out and get to 21, 22 trying different things and not gain any resources, or you could make the sacrifice, join the service, and you get out and you have all these resources. So
right.
Even if you don't want to be a lifer, you don't want to retire, you have things that are going to support your future endeavors, whatever they are.
And the important thing is to make the sacrifice. Like you can't get
Right.
you have to sacrifice your time in one way or another.
To get anything in exchange,
get anything.
whether it's a relationship, whether it's a profession, whether it's a hobby, you don't
Skill, education.
You don't get anything back without putting in first, right?
Totally. Well, and I know you and I talked about this as well, but like me, I did 4 years, got my bachelor's degree, right? I didn't go join the military or anything like that. Most of my degree, I think, is a bunch of BS. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I learned some stuff, no doubt. There were some good things that I learned, but my 4-year degree, I could probably explain all the important stuff in 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in reality, a lot of the jobs and careers that people apply for that require a degree, I think you and I were talking about this, they really just want to see that you were able to sacrifice your time and like deal with it and pay your dues, even though really what you learned is not super important, because depending on the career path, if you're going to be an accountant, you need to go get a freaking
Right.
degree in accounting, engineer, all that stuff. I sell software. I don't have any technical background whatsoever. And I think if you're in sales, you don't really need a technical background. But some of the best sales guys I know have a degree in nutrition. Like, didn't effing matter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the important part was that they got the degree. Sadly, some companies require it. In my opinion, I think if I just did 4 years of a sales job, even if I was knocking door to door selling solar, I think that would have been better 4 years towards my career than, going through random classes, at school. But, again, I'm not complaining. It's but it's an interesting how different paths can get you there, and, all that.
I agree. I think it shows that piece of paper, that degree shows a company that you have discipline, that you have time management, that you have communication skills. and that you can apply yourself towards, you can work with others towards a common goal, towards a common objective. And it shows that you have those skills to do so, to accomplish
Right.
that.
And so, and you know this, but obviously with my podcast, like there's a few major themes that when I interview guests. So there's one about, how you got your shit together, you joined the military, all that. And then the second one is like, what is your day-to-day life, in your job and career, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because a lot of younger people out there are thinking, well, do I want to be an accountant? Do I want to, be an engineer? Like, I want to help these young people kind of figure out, is this a good career path for them? So like, do you mind sharing a bit about your day to day and like, what you do in your career and like what made you decide that, the things that you like about it? Is it something that you'd recommend for younger folks? Like,
sure,
all that.
That's a good question. I'll answer that starting out by saying that as I've gotten older, I've realized in a perfect world, in an ideal situation, we want to do what we're passionate about for our work.
Right.
Right. In a perfect world, everyone would love to do what they love and be able to make a living by doing so. However, the reality is the majority of people, their career, their job is a means to an end. It's how they provide for themselves outside of those four walls in which they work in, right? It's how they take care of their family, how they go on trips, how they drive that car, how they pay for that house. So yes, if you can make a living doing what you love, I encourage that. I support that by all means. I don't think that in our world that's the most common thing.
Right.
However, that being said, I didn't necessarily choose this career path. I think I would have seen myself more like in business or in sales, or I don't know, maybe like somewhere in like the music industry or something like that. But it was a good opportunity that kind of fell in my lap. And what I mean by that is I got recruited to continue doing similar work as a civilian, less than 5 or 6 months after separating from the service. And I told myself, I was like, well, if I'm going to stay here, I know I need to make X amount of dollars to be able to finance my living. So started out as a contractor, wasn't sure that I would stay, got my degree, finished that. And then once I realized, okay, you're already making this much money, starting off at the bottom of the finance industry with your degree you'll be making this much money. I was like, okay, let me just stay the path. And then you kind of get to a point where it's like, you're a slave to the money, right? And it's like, okay, now I'm already making this much. I don't love my job, but I recognize the value that it holds in what it does for me. So that outweighs my desire for seeking a different career path, right? So anyway, to answer the question now and not get too off track here, I was an operations specialist in the Navy. So I worked with tracking ships and aircraft in the vicinity of wherever our ship was, establishing communication with them, setting up rendezvous points, et cetera, et cetera. I currently work with one of the proprietary communication systems that the Navy uses on board ships. That's where the majority of my experience has been.
Like a software that you log into, and that people are tracking information.
It's basically what the system does. It enables the ship to see further than its own emitters would allow it to see. So we take our radar picture and say the ship can see for 30 surface miles out, right? Then we link up with another ship that's maybe 20 miles out, and through an exchange of secure data, we can see their picture as well.
Gotcha.
So it extends our line of sight picture, like our tactical picture, so that they can make crucial decisions, say like in a war setting or whatever.
Totally.
Right? Where your assets are, where hostiles are, where unknowns are, and you kind of move accordingly depending on what the mission and the objective is. So I work with the system that enables the ships to do that, provide a tactical picture for them. And so obviously when I was on board the ship, I worked on it on the ship. And now I work at one of the lab that the Navy owns up near Point Loma, near the submarine base. And we have all those systems that the ship has on board there.
Gotcha.
So some of the guys write software, some of the guys try to recreate scenarios that the ships have had out to sea and iron out the kinks, how to make it better.
And you're mostly like, would you say that your day to day, you're mostly talking to people, or are you by yourself,
I'm on
a computer?
I'm in a hybrid role where it's like I do maintenance and operations. So I'll do like I'll handle like loading crypto for the secure communication systems, which they all require, or working with some of the engineers that are working on the software and stuff like that, or making suggestions to how the hardware could be better,
Gotcha.
So
managing all the different resources involved in that tool.
Correct.
That the ships
we
use.
want the sailors to be able to be ready to effectively troubleshoot and fix their systems in critical moments when they're maybe out to sea and they're in a scenario where they don't have a lot of time and they can't fly someone from halfway across the world out there to fix it,
Right.
So, yeah, so we work with a bunch of the systems that the Navy has there in a lab setting. And day to day, I like it because it's kind of high level, fast paced. I work with a lot of really smart people, which I enjoy that because things that I don't know, I can go and pick people's brain and ask questions, and they're always happy to share the knowledge. So
right, so it's a good environment.
It is.
People.
It's challenging. It's fast paced. It's kind of high stressful, and I like that because I learn a lot. It kind of keeps you on your toes. Other days, I'm just like, it's a little overwhelming. So I don't love it, but I recognize the value of it.
It's like any career, though, right? It's like you're gonna have some days and some moments that suck, and then you're gonna have other days and moments that are good. And so long as you're not waking up wanting to blast yourself, then
right,
you're in a pretty good position,
dude. And it's taken me. I mean, I've been to Singapore, I've been to Palau, I've been to Japan multiple times. As a civilian, so pretty cool. Companies paid for me to go on these trips. I've made extra, overtime traveling,
nice.
Working over. So
that's a cool perk. I didn't know that was along with your job and career.
Yeah,
some people, they look for careers with like, well, I want to travel with my job. So it's like, well, there's an option for you.
Yeah, and as a result of that, I've gotten to put the charges on my credit card, gotten reimbursed, gotten the credit card points or incentives and miles and
free
stuff
flights.
Like that.
Yeah.
So for someone like me who's like, travel is something that I enjoy, that I've always enjoyed.
Right.
So it's like provides a little bonus because I got to go to these places on someone else's dime, right, and get paid doing it, which a lot of people can't say. Something, say you want to go to Japan, you're probably going to have to shell out, $3K to make that trip happen for yourself.
Totally.
So to be able to go and experience different things in different places on someone else's dime is not the worst thing in the world, So
hell yeah.
I again, even though sometimes when I'm here stuck at the lab, I don't love it. I weigh the good with the bad, and you always that keeps me like level.
Yeah. Well, and so with a lot of these interviews I've done, that's one of the main takeaways is like, you're not always going to have a job where every moment's perfect. Even if you love your job, there are going to be moments that suck. And there's going to be moments where it's like, man, I'm exhausted, but I still have to go do this. That's just part of being an adult. Because, I talk to a lot of younger people who are like, well, I want to get a stable job. Maybe I want to be an accountant. But let's say 5 years into my career, I decide that I hate it. And it's like, man, I wasted all that time. So instead, I'm just not going to start. I'm going to keep working at this restaurant and not get my degree started, which I think is the wrong decision. I think you need to go get your life started. And if you work a job that you don't love for 10 years, but it's, beefing up your resume, it's giving you skills, it's giving you experiences, you're learning what you like and you don't like, then make a transition afterwards. Like, it's okay if you're 30 years old and you switch careers. Maybe it's not ideal, but those 10 years of working are invaluable. I mean, you absolutely need that. And you can't just delay starting life because you're not sure if you're going to love that path. You can't really see that far into the future. So you got to get started.
Absolutely. And one thing that I strongly encourage the younger generations to do is work towards something. Find something that interests you. Find something that you can engage with and try it out. A year or 2 or 3 is nothing when you're 22, 23 years old,
Totally.
But you don't know what you like or what you're good at if you don't try anything. So try A doesn't work out, move on to B. When you're young, you have that luxury. When you're mid-30s, late 30s, it's kind of like, well, a lot of time has passed. So maybe by then, hopefully you found something that you're interested in that you can kind of lock your horns into. But another thing is start small. Start one day at a time, working towards your goals. Whatever small the action is, but I promise you, if every day you work towards your goals, that it compounds, and before you know it, you're closer to your goals than you realize.
For sure.
And I know that because when I turned 30, I had a major mindset shift, and 2 years later, got a better job. 3 years after that, I bought my place. So nothing worth having comes easy,
right? And
without effort and fighting for, right? So
hell yeah,
just work towards your goals every day. Even if it may seem small, I promise you'll look back and be like, damn, I've come a long way. So it's little steps each day add up.
Well, that's why I love having these conversations, because it's like, you and I have been through it. Like we've seen how it pays off, and we see the fact that it's like, man, I don't want to waste, like knowing what you know now, you wouldn't want to waste your fucking time. You wouldn't want to waste a year of your life just kind of like screwing around and not building towards something or like moving the ball forward. And I know, Gabe, our mutual friend who runs Mad Men, when him and I interviewed him on episode 30, and he was talking about, hey, in his early 20s, he had to work 3 jobs. It's like he had 3 jobs, and he's like, dude, it's like I was working the entire time. He's like, I'm not gonna lie, I still had fun hanging out with my friends and drinking after the shifts and all that stuff. But like I worked 3 jobs until I was able to survive on 1 job. And then I built that 1 job until I was able to work less hours. But it's like, but dude, it sucked
And
for
now
a few years.
he works minimally, and he
Yeah.
lives in one of the nicest places
In San Diego.
we know, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's living comfortable for himself.
And sometimes, yeah, the other part of that is when you put in that work early, you may not have to work as hard later. Or you can not do shit for 10 years and then you work a lot harder later. So
Exactly.
it's kind of up to you. But
learn from the older guys. It's like put in the work when you're young.
Definitely.
Don't screw around. Don't waste your time.
I know it doesn't get easier as you get older. You have more adult responsibilities. You have relationships. You have
a little bit less energy.
less energy. Yeah. So it doesn't get easier to put in the work as you get older. I think the best time to do it is start young, and then you'll surprise yourself where you are when you're 30, when you're 35, when you're 40, you know. But I know when I turned 30, I was like, holy shit, those 10 years, last decade went by like this. I was like, the next decade is going to go by fucking just as fast. Like, what am I doing to put me where I want 40-year-old Will to be?
Totally.
You know, so yeah, kind of.
It's the right mindset, man.
And I think, you know, they say men mature a little bit later than women. I believe that. But nonetheless, yeah, definitely work towards your goals every day. Small steps lead to big changes.
Yeah.
You know, for sure.
No, I love that, man. And you know, even with my own journey, like I'm extremely blessed, man. I'm born and raised San Diego. You know, my parents weren't wealthy or anything, but I had 2 parents in the household. Like, couldn't complain, right? Love my career. You know, like I said, some moments suck, but that's just part of life. And I think like, for me, you know, obviously I'm running this podcast. This is something that I do as a hobby, and it's something that I find fulfillment in. It's something that I enjoy doing. But obviously, like I have my career that supports my bills and like, you know, it gives me money and all that stuff, which is the priority, right? But like if you get your shit together and you're able to like start, you know, are able to take care of yourself, now you can start to pivot to hobbies like running a podcast, or even for yourself. I know you're a big music guy and you've really started your, you know, music career. Like, you know, do you mind sharing a bit about that and you know, like how all that started and like.
So, man, it's an interesting story, and I'll try to just give you the short, you know, here. But I've always been passionate about music. You know, when being a prideful Houstonian, you know, I've always been into like hip hop, R&B. Always just avid fan. You know, took avid enjoyment. Would go to concerts and stuff. When I got stationed out here, I discovered dance music, or EDM as the kids commonly refer to it as these days.
Right.
And I was like, man, like I discovered Avicii and Skrillex, and I heard some of their music, and I was like, I remember being on deployment, you know, so far away from home, and it was just like, damn, the way that the music made me
makes
feel.
You feel, huh?
Yeah, just like evoked emotions inside of me that I didn't know like were there, you know. And it's like, okay, let me go check out some of these artists, like whenever we're back home, stateside or whatever.
Right.
So, first pool party I ever went to in San Diego was at the Hard Rock. It was called Intervention. Right, ironically. And so I went to go see a DJ called Laid Back Luke there. It was August of 2011. And the rest is history, man. Since then, I got into submersed in that music culture, going to the events and stuff. And I always wanted to DJ. I thought, man, DJing would be cool. I was young. I would love to do that. However, I never really got to sink my teeth into that, not for many years, because being on a ship, you're not, you know, you're underway, you're out to sea, you're gone 10 days, you're gone 2 weeks, you're back for 2. It's just not really a steady, reliable schedule or whatever. So even though the DJing thing is a hobby that I would have liked to realize in my mid-20s, it ended up being something that I realized in my mid-30s. So during COVID, I finally took that leap of faith, and I invested about $4,000 in DJ gear. Didn't know how to DJ.
Right.
But I had some friends that DJ'd or whatever, and one of them was willing to kind of show me the ropes, teach me the basics and stuff. So, yeah, what started off as me DJing for, you know, little house parties, or we'd charter a boat and I'd play on the boat for friends or whatever. What started off as a hobby quickly became like a paid hobby for me, you know. Right. So I bought the gear in like COVID, which was like March of 2020. Fast forward 2 years later, man, I'm playing at the Hard Rock on New Year's Eve, you know. So
that's wild.
And I've been a resident there since, going on 3 years. I'll be playing the Hard Rock New Year's Eve party this year. Hit me up for tickets if you guys need them. Got them for the low. And then, yeah, man, it just kind of slowly unraveled. You know, I think I kind of had a foot in the door because I had attended those events and was kind of in the scene prior to me starting to DJ. So then I kind of planted that seed with different promoters and was like, hey, you know, like I DJ, I'm trying to get out there a little bit more. And yeah, fast forward to 2025, man, I had a breakout year. I played at Hideaway. I've played at Alka multiple times.
Yeah, you're getting booked all over the place.
I've played at Avenue, a Firehouse. I've played everywhere that I wanted to play. I've had the opportunity of playing in San Diego, and it's just been really humbling, man. It's been really humbling because people will tell you can't, you're too old. I had one of my best friends from Texas tell me, like, what are you doing? You're like going on 40, you're still like DJing, and then he ended up walking that back once he kind of saw more of like what that journey's actually entailed and what it took me to get here, and was like, hey, I was wrong for saying that. You've done a great job. A lot of people still that don't know think that I do this full time. No, it is just a hobby. You might think that I do it full time because I am, forcing that path and it's going well. But no, I still have my 7 to 3, Monday through Friday, my career, which is my first. But once you kind of dial that in and you're in a good place and you feel like you can manage the workload, you can take on other tasks, just like you're taking on this podcast.
Exactly.
And just like I've taken on the DJing, So yeah, it's been nice to be able to monetize my hobby. I've been able to share and create a lot of great moments for not only my friends that have come out to support me, but other people in the crowd,
For sure. Making people feel good.
Yeah, just dancing, having that escape, being able to enjoy something. I think we all know we have different ways of blowing off steam. For a lot of people, that's going out and dancing, having some
and
drinks
you need to
with
blow
friends,
off steam, especially when you're grinding.
Because
7 to 3,
sure, Sunday you wake up hungover and you're like, damn, I spent this money, I'm tired. But you have a smile on your face because you were with people you care about. You got to indulge a little bit. You got to blow off steam, and then you're better equipped to just start the week off and take it on again, and do what you need to. So it's definitely been a positive outlet for me. I'm grateful for the opportunities that have come my way. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to grow the project, man. I do.
Yeah. And it all depends on what you want to get out of it, right? It's like, even if you're not getting paid, I mean, you're, fortunate to be getting paid on these gigs, but even if you're not getting paid, you're getting those fun experiences, the laughs, the smiles, the hanging out with friends, making people happy. And me personally, like, I went hardcore on my career for the first 5 years, and I still, obviously, that's a big priority of mine. But I realized that, okay, I'm lacking a little bit, I need a little bit more balance in my life. I wasn't taking good care of my health. I wasn't exercising well. I wasn't really eating well. It was just whatever I needed to do to work. And then I realized, okay, I'm starting to get burnt out. Like I need to, I want to keep working hard, but I need to make sure I have better habits. And part of that was having something to build towards outside of my career. And, that's why I started the podcast, because all right, something where even if I make no money on this ever, but I build it for 5 years, I'm going to look back and be like, man, I'm glad I spent those hours, even if it's a few hours a month, talking to people, learning from people. And it's a creative outlet, right? It's like I'm, working and being busy all week, but now I have this creative outlet that helps kind of stimulate my brain and kind of keeps me, thinking, meeting other people. And so I think I guess what I'm trying to say is I think every human needs that balance to be able to survive your 7 to 3, 7 to 4, or else you just get burnt out and you're like, what the F's the point of this?
Definitely. I think anything passion driven, as long as you enjoy it, as long as you're still having fun, it's worthwhile. And I think that energy speaks for itself in the sense of people probably can see that you're passionate about this when they watch this podcast. And I think when people see that and it catches on, people take to it because it's driven, it's fueled by the right thing, right? And so, yeah, sometimes the DJing, it wears me down a little bit because there's politics involved, and ass kissing and behind the scenes. And but I'm grateful that I already have my bread and butter. This comes second and third of that. So I'm not like stressing out like, oh, how am I going to figure out? No, like my A, B, C, D, E is already taken care of. This is just from my heart, my passion project. And I want to keep pushing it. And, there's uphill battles and hurdles to overcome in anything, right? Because you have to find the time. You have to put money out of your pocket to to use the space, right?
You may be tired or sick one weekend, but you're already booked, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping to those commitments. And I think as long as the passion is there to fuel the project, whatever it is, I think people will see that. They'll recognize it eventually and it'll catch on. Maybe you monetize it, maybe you don't. But if not, you still take that self-fulfillment for yourself. Yeah,
exactly. So switching gears a bit, I know that obviously with each of my guests, I always you wouldn't be here today if we weren't both someone who wants better for our community and, consider 100%. Ourselves patriots in many ways. So I'm curious for you, do you consider yourself a patriot? Like, what does that mean for you? What is like being a responsible citizen and being a man in your community like mean to you? What do you think we're lacking? Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
So I think that I'm very proud, very prideful to be an American. I think me joining the service initially was was equally based in my desire to better myself,
Right.
and my desire to serve the country. And like I said earlier about not really being able to choose explicitly what it is you do, where you go, the idea of wanting to serve your country, I think, is a beautiful thing, something that we should appreciate. Ultimately, those people make up less than 1% of the population in the country that decide to serve. So I think that's huge. I definitely prideful American, prideful Texan. I do like the fact and appreciate the fact that I served. I think it was good for me. I think it's a very selfless thing to do, to sacrifice, your friends, your family, the life that to better yourself or to serve your country, whatever the case may be. Yeah, man. And as I've gotten older, I've learned I'm more or less, blue or red or black or white or brown, and more about like, how do you treat other people on a day to day? How do you set an example in your community with your own actions and how you move and how you treat others, because we could find 1,000 reasons to divide to divide people and divide friends and beliefs and all that. But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to make it. We're all just trying to get by. We're all just trying to lead good lives, support our families, support our friends. And I think the way to do that is through meaningful engagements with those around you,
Community.
Being kind to a stranger, giving a couple bucks to maybe that mom that is with their kid that doesn't have anything or whatever. At the end of the day, when I think about what I don't have or being down on myself or what more I want that I don't, I always remind myself what I do have, how blessed I am. A lot of people, they couldn't get out of bed today. A lot of people can't see, can't hear, they're blind or whatever the case may be. So always count my blessings and everything I do have before I start discounting, the things I don't have.
Right.
And just take a moment to show gratitude and be thankful, So as far as being, what was the last, like the second part of the question?
What do you think people are missing, or maybe in our community? Because part of this is like, and you and I talk about this all the time, is although I have my political views, I don't care what other people's politics are, genuinely, as long as you don't want harm on other people, or you don't want I want to improve my community, right? And I'm not perfect. Like, I've made my fair share of mistakes, but like, I've also had some good wins in my life, and I've learned from cool people like yourself and other, mentors that I've had throughout my life, to where I can share that back with the younger generation, they can get their shit together, so they can not, have an ego, or not, burn relationships because they're, being an idiot or being selfish, and, all that type of stuff. And I know you feel the same way, where we want to just give back and see whatever we can offer to the next generation. Here's some wisdom from some older guys, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like the theme here, So curious your thoughts on
I think it's easier said than done, and it's niche, but just, do unto others as you would like done to yourself. Treat others the way that you would like people to treat your friends, your family, your colleagues at work, and just through bettering the community through actions, how you speak to others, how you treat others. And I think the more good that is out there, the more good that people see, the more inclined they are to go that route, versus the nasty route. So before you try to find a divisive matter with someone, maybe how can you connect with that person? How are you similar to that person? You know, what advice or words can you offer that person that'll serve them? And I think if we just walk in that manner and carry ourselves the way that we want, be how you want the world to be via your actions, I think that's the best thing we can do. I think trial and error, obviously, for everyone, as far as how you go about life and how you better yourself. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to be better, then don't let anything stop you, man. Just ask questions, ask for advice, get opinions and advice from people that you look up to and you respect, and try to seek it out for yourself,
Yeah, no, I love that, man, especially in the era of the social media algorithms and the internet and how divisive, it feels sometimes.
For sure.
I love that advice of like, hey, if you, have a neighbor or someone around you, like, see what you guys have in common first before you look towards what you guys don't have in common. That's actually huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that.
Any final piece of advice? I mean, you've offered some good wisdom to the next gen, but any final takeaways for any young San Diegans, maybe even young men out there, looking to get their shit together?
Yeah, I would I would just say that if there's people in your friend group or in your family that you look up to, that you respect, seek out wisdom, seek out knowledge from them. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm a firm believer in closed mouths don't get fed, in whatever capacity that is. You don't know if you don't ask. Don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong or you don't know something. And what else could I say here? Oh, don't be afraid to take chances and take risks and to work towards your goals every single day. At the end of the day, if you put 1% every day, what does it add up to in 100 days, right? So,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I think that would be it.
Dude, love it, brother. Well, dude, man, obviously we've been knowing each other for about a year now, and we've talked about getting this conversation set up, and I'm glad we did it. Appreciate you sacrificing your time, being vulnerable, offering your life experiences and lessons learned to the next gen. And I just am super grateful for other people in the San Diego community willing to offer and give what they can to the next gen. So greatly appreciate it, man. I hope, those watching out there are appreciative too, but, just me, from me to you, I greatly appreciate it. And, just super grateful for it, man. So appreciate you contributing.
Likewise, Lee. I like what you're doing. I respect your time, your effort. I know you're a good guy. I'm grateful to have been a guest on here, and any little bit that we can share for the younger guys watching, I'm happy to share the game, freely.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Sweet.